Welcome to the Golf Improvement Podcast, episode 170.
Welcome to the podcast for golf lovers and enthusiasts who are looking to take their games to new heights. Dedicated to custom club fitting, short game improvement, and effective practice to improve your golf game. This is the Golf Improvement Podcast with your host, Tony Wright.
Hello, this is Tony Wright from Game Improvement Golf in Oak Ridge, Tennessee with the Golf Improvement Podcast, dedicated to sharing useful information on professional club fitting, short game improvement, and effective practice techniques. I create exceptional golf clubs. You shoot lower scores. As I mentioned at the end of the last episode, my putting guru friend Juan Gutierrez said I had to get in touch with Dr. Ryan Caserta, an expert in applying visual perception and eye tracking expertise to help golfers and other athletes play their best. Well, Ryan is in a lot of demand these days with golfers of all levels of skills. Enjoy this fascinating interview with Dr. Ryan Caserta, Dr. C, sharing some of his well-earned knowledge to help golfers play their best golf.
www.gameimprovementgolf.com.
Hello, this is Tony Wright with episode 170 of the Golf Improvement Podcast. I'm delighted today to get to learn and to get you to learn from Dr. Ryan Caserta, who's an expert in visual perception and eye tracking. He has worked for quite a number of years with amateur and professional golfers from around the world and golfers who have had great success. And my friend and his friend, Juan Gutierrez, who I know Ryan worked with somewhere around 10 years ago when he was the world putting champion. And Juan told me about Ryan, and I'm delighted that he's going to get to speak with you today and also share it, near the end, some about his new impact program that he's created, which is an online learning program. So Ryan, thanks for being here today. I know you are a very busy person, and it's going to be fun to get to talk with you and learn from you.
Tony, I'm so excited to be able to talk with you. Thanks for having me on.
Well, you, I'm sure, have a story. You've been in this sort of for 20 years. Some things that I don't know, and probably others don't know, who know a little bit about you. So, talk a little bit about your story and your journey to becoming an expert in sport vision, and some of the maybe more important things that happened to you, or that led you to where you are today.
Yeah, so when I was a kid, I played tons of sports growing up. And whenever I played, I always had some of those experiences, as we've all had, where maybe that basketball hoop felt like it was huge, and the game seemed to be so easy. When I played baseball, there was times where the ball seemed like the size of a grapefruit and I could just hit it. It seemed like every time I got up to bat. And so when I started to really get a little bit older and focused on which sports I really wanted to play, tennis and golf were right up at the top of the list. And ultimately, I had a chance to move to Florida and train with the best tennis players in the world. And so when I was training with all of these top experts, it really started to stand out to me when I heard players like Andre Agassi, after he would win a tennis match, talk about how, I played really well today and I was seeing the ball so early. And it always intrigued me. Like, what was he doing that allowed him to see the ball earlier than I was seeing it? He was maybe one of the best returners in the game of tennis. My return game was maybe one of my weaker areas when I played tennis. And I always thought, well, what can I do that Agassi's doing to get better? But it seemed like even though I was staring right at the tennis ball, there was something I wasn't doing right. So, of course, growing up, I did want to have my life be as a professional athlete. I didn't really have any dreams to be a doctor. I didn't want to be in grad school doing that work. That's not what I envisioned when I was younger. But when I wasn't able to make my life as a pro athlete, it really intrigued me to go back and figure out why. And so that's kind of where that 20-year journey began. I went back to study expertise. So how we develop expertise and truly how we maintain expertise when it matters the most. And specifically, the role that perceptual skills play in that expertise process. So through my doctoral research, and like you said, the applied work that I've done with both amateur and professional golfers from around the world over the past 20 years, I've definitely learned so much. For as much, I always say this, for as much as I've been able to help golfers and other athletes get better and achieve higher levels of expertise, every time I work with someone and I'm gaining data with eye tracking technology, I feel like I've learned through them as well. And it's helped me to continue to expand the work that I'm doing and the training I'm providing to keep helping people get better in this area.
Pretty amazing stuff. And now I know, as I tried to do my homework. You've talked to some people that I've listened to fairly recently, and you always like to talk a little bit about the 5 domains to becoming an expert. And I think that's relevant and valuable for everybody to hear you talk a little bit about today. So why don't you do that?
Yeah, I appreciate that because I really feel like this is where it all starts. The science is really clear when we're examining what areas need to be trained to become an expert. And there are 5 of them. And so we'll go through them fairly quickly. The first one are physical skills. So that would include everything like strength, power, speed, agility, flexibility, mobility, all the areas that you need to train to be able to perform in your sport. The second area will be technical skills. So for the game of golf, you got everything from the full swing to all different areas of short game to putting. And so being able to work with your swing coach and train all of those technical aspects, truly important to becoming an expert. And I would argue that golf is probably one of the most technically demanding sports of all sports that are out there. The third area are tactical skills, and those would include things like strategy and course management. As you well know, the best players in the world are doing so much work leading up to that Thursday round to really be able to get the best game plan to how they're going to attack the course and how they'll be able to shoot their best scores when it comes to that Thursday through Sunday. The fourth area are emotional skills. And those include not only emotional regulation, which is so vital. I know there's a lot of training out there that talks about how we can, be able to handle the highs and the lows of each round. And if you've played any amount of golf, you've probably gone through those emotional roller coasters even in one round. But from day after day, tournament after tournament, how do you kind of handle that side of the game? But that area also includes other psychological skills. I would consider those kind of like the sports psych 101 of mental skill training. Because those psychological skills can certainly help bolster emotional regulation. So they are definitely important. And then the fifth and final area is my area of expertise. It's perceptual skills. And that would include not only perceptual skills, but also other area of cognitive skills and decision-making skills, all in that area. And before I talk about that, I just want to talk about how these 5 areas are all interrelated, okay? So if you have a lack of development in one of them, that can become a limiting factor in another. So for example, if you're working with your swing coach and the position that your swing coach is trying to get you in, you don't have maybe the physical flexibility to get into that position, then those physical limitations are keeping you from making the improvements in the technical side. And this is true when it comes to all of those areas, and they can all kind of affect each other. So this is where it's so important to be really deliberate with how you're training, and you've got to be focused in these 5 areas to be working to improve anyone that's lacking. Now, the reason why I kept, of course, perceptual skills last, not only because it's my area, but it's because it's the one area out of the 5 that's been often left untrained. I mean, most people just totally ignore training their eyes at all. And if you're not training that area, you've basically left 20% of your potential on the table. And because this area is so important once you're in competition, because it's in competition where you're getting all that visual information, you're having to make all of those decisions based on the shot you just played. This area is so important to actually know so you can control it, because it can help improve the other 4 areas to be able to truly maximize your expertise from round to round.
I think it's so amazing to talk about the interaction of it too. I've heard you talk about the 5 elements, but talking about how important it is to kind of connect the dots a little bit, right? That they're all connecting each other a little bit. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, think about this. We all watched Bryson DeChambeau last week at one of my favorite courses in Orlando, Bay Hill. One of my favorite players of all time, Arnold Palmer. He took a line on that par 5 that rarely many golfers play. I know that when I've played that hole, that is not my strategy or the tactical skills that I'm using for my round, right? So here's the thing. Because I don't have the technical capability and also the physical capability to those 2 areas, I don't have the abilities to hit the ball that far, then the strategies I have to employ on that hole have to be very different, right? But this is where it can get kind of crazy. As golfers, sometimes I've seen amateur golfers overestimate their strategies. So they'll maybe take a more aggressive line or pick a club that maybe really is a max distance, is maybe not giving them the best opportunity to hit an extra green each round. And it's because they're overestimating some of their strategies that don't match up with their technical and physical skills. Again, this is where they're not shooting their best scores. And if they start to adjust those and get them aligned, aligning those skills can get you shooting some great scores out there on the golf course.
And even maybe it's easier to have your eyes locked in if you've got, you're probably familiar with the decade program and things like that too. To be able to lock in to a good target if your brain is picking something that's achievable, right?
Oh, absolutely, right? Because the information that you're getting through your eyes is so impactful to what your mind does.
Yeah. Well, share a little bit about, some of the basis for how the eyes impact our minds and impact performance. And, what is a little bit about, and you could talk for an hour about this, I know, a little bit about the difference between what experts do with their eyes and what, us sort of non-experts do, and then sneak in a little bit about pressure.
Oh,
I mean, that's
okay.
that's a big topic, but hey, we'll tackle it a little bit, okay?
All right, I'll break that down. We'll start first with how the eyes impact the mind. So to your first question, when you look at the basis of everything your mind does, so the core of all cognitive processing, the building blocks of everything your mind does is based on attention. Okay, so attention is the building blocks to your working memory, and then working memory become the building blocks to everything else. So reasoning, language, executive functioning, long-term memory, everything else. So when people understand that attention is the building block of everything your brain does, then you can clearly understand how your eyes become one of the most vital roles in those attentional processes, right? They're not the only role, but they play a huge part in that attentional building block. So this is why it becomes so important that we're doing specific training to improve what our eyes are doing so that it can improve our mind, because it's the start of everything. And the cascading effects, I'm learning more and more, are pretty impactful with the new technology that I'm using. The other thing that people don't realize is that of all of your 5 senses, visual information, what you're seeing that comes through your eyes, actually reaches every region of your brain. I won't go through a whole science lesson of every area that it touches in the brain, but it reaches and will actually activate all the regions of the brain where when you're using your other senses, that only kind of reaches very specific regions of your brain. So when you understand that your eyes are kind of getting information to all of your brain, and now that you understand that attention, again, is where it all starts, then people are not as shocked to hear that it's your eyes that are responsible for nearly 90% of all cognitive processing. So when I talk to people and I say, hey, if your eyes are responsible for 90% of everything your brain is processing, I can't think of anything that's more important to be training than your eyes. And of course, I am biased in that, but those are some pretty impressive numbers, and hard to argue why you wouldn't want to be learning very deliberate ways to use your eyes correctly so that you can avoid some of those, what I like to call perceptual pitfalls when you're out there on the golf course. So you had mentioned experts, and yeah, I've done a lot of research and expertise and learned how they are different from novices. And when it comes to the eyes, experts are very different. And this is a list. I'll give a briefer version of this list. If people are interested in really getting a more expanded version, it's available on my website. So people, if you're listening to this while you're driving, you don't feel like you have to take notes right now.
Yeah.
But you'll be able to find it on my website. It's available for free. So what we've learned is that experts are really, really good at quickly recognizing sport-specific patterns. And so picking up on those sport-specific patterns can be in dynamic sports, so whether that's like football, and seeing kind of how plays develop, but it also can be in other sports like golf that can really affect what they're able to do in making decisions. So that's the first area. The second thing that they're really good at is they're faster at seeing balls and even other objects within their visual field than novices. So there's specific skills of the eye that when trained, athletes can start to pick up on things much earlier. And when you pick up on them earlier, your brain has more time to process the information. That extra information at an earlier time frame can get you to play a lot better underneath kind of, the pressures that are out there when you're competing. So, it's important to be able to kind of see those things and get that kind of speed in your mind. I've worked with some football players where I've said to them over the years, okay, you're going to go to the NFL Combine. Is it important to run a really fast 40? And they're like, absolutely. I'm training through this, prep for Combine to run the fastest 40 I can. And that is really important. But what about if you're seeing things and processing them faster and making more accurate decisions? You'll be in the right place at the right time, which will make you look like you play faster than your 40 time. And I can promise you, every NFL team wants someone that plays faster than their 40 time. And that happens through kind of, again, seeing and processing the information faster. You can actually get faster physically. So the next area is going to be that experts do a great job of avoiding excessive eye movements. And you kind of brought this up earlier. They're really good at focusing in on the most relevant cue zones. Areas that give them the most important information, because it's in that they know that they're going to be able to learn what they need, and they're not going to get a bunch of extra information that just kind of puts their brain on overload and doesn't help them to perform better. So, really learning how to control eye movement patterns is one part of it, but also learning where you need to be looking and how you can get that best information is the second part of it. So the next area is not only do they know where to look, but this area of situational awareness, which I've done a lot of research in, they understand through these skills in situational awareness how to accurately predict what will happen almost even before it happens. And so this is a huge advantage to experts, where for novices, they're probably taking in a ton of information with their eyes because they're looking everywhere. They're not looking in areas that are giving them the best information. Obviously, they're a little slower to pick up on those balls or other objects that are in their visual field. And then what happens is they're so slow to finally get the information to know what will happen. This is why they're either very late to react or making poor decisions, because at some point in time, you're almost then just guessing. And that puts you in a tough place to perform your best when you kind of have to guess whether to swing at a pitch or not swing at a pitch, especially with how fast some of those pitches are coming.
It's moving
baseball,
really
right?
fast. Yeah.
So the last area, and if I remember correctly, you had asked about stress, and this ties in really to experts and their eyes. what I was so intrigued to learn, and this brings it back to those 5 areas, right? Emotional skills, you got to train in those areas. Those are important. However, in sport, and we've all experienced it, there are times where something will happen where, our emotions may get ramped up, right? It may be where you see yourself leading the tournament and didn't know that you were leading the tournament. I had a tour player just tell me that, where they're like, yeah, I was playing great. It was early round, and I came around the corner on the 7th hole and saw my name at the top of the leaderboard. Oh, man. And then the thoughts and what happens in that. How do you handle that? And obviously, you can be using all of the skills you've learned to kind of emotionally regulate. But the problem is, novices who haven't trained perceptual skills correctly, they are more susceptible to those skills actually getting worse when their emotions are kind of all over the place. So you don't need to end up having that skill get worse. What's so great is that experts, as they train these skills and these skills get really fine-tuned, any changes in emotional states are going to basically won't affect what perceptual skills you're using. And this is how you can maintain your levels of performance when it matters the most. So, we've all had that time where, we started the first 4 holes, got a couple bad bounces, maybe missed a couple of putts, maybe we're 2 over. Then on the 5th hole, we hit one in there tight, and we're like, oh man, first birdie opportunity of the day. And you want that putt so bad. And,
yeah,
you're just right. Like, I need this putt, right? I've hit a great approach shot. I don't want to, I got it inside 10 feet. Everybody thinks I should make this one. I expect to make this one. And no matter how much you try to tell yourself, it's just one more putt, it doesn't matter, you're going to be pretty ramped up and want to make a birdie and get your score back on track, get it back to +1, get back to playing some good golf, and, kind of turn your round around early so you can kind of maybe shoot a better score. Well, this is those times where you don't need to have your perception then be the unknown factor affecting you on that putt. Because with all of that kind of emotional change, if you can have your eyes trained correctly, you're going to have much higher chance to be able to make that putt and more putts as your round goes on.
Well, that's great. That's a good summary of some of that. Now, I know that one of the key things that you use is eye tracking software when at least you'll be able to get together with people. Talk maybe a little bit about how you use it. And I'm sort of sneaking something in here. I think there's some, did you mention in a recent interview that, some of the eye tracking software is starting to get a little more available for people? Isn't that right?
Absolutely. I mean, in the 20 years, the eye tracking technology has evolved in a way that's been unbelievable. So it's like going from those persimmon woods to the drivers we have now, right? So the first eye trackers that I used in grad school, it was on a hockey helmet, and these were the mobile versions. Most of eye tracking had to be done in a lab where your head had to be perfectly still. And as we started to move into the mobile eye tracking technology where we could put it on athletes and other elite performers where they needed to be moving around outside, it was on a huge hockey helmet with basically a small computer that you had to wear in a backpack on your back. And, the cords that were duct taped going down into the backpack were, huge. It was just very cumbersome and not very user friendly to keep you performing in what is your natural state when you're out there, right? So to the newest technology that I just recently had, because the eye tracker that I had before for the first 14 years, it had basically lived its life. It had a good life. It did a lot of work for me. It rests in peace now in the closet. The sensor basically died on it, and I think I was happy to get the 14 years out of it. I think that's a pretty long time for those sensors to last. But the latest eye tracking technology that I have now, it's basically just like putting on a pair of glasses. And you put literally the size of a recording device that's even smaller than your iPhone. You can just put it in your back pocket or clip it to your belt, and it's totally wireless. So, you technically could just go and play as many holes as you want until the battery dies, and it will basically record everything that your eyes are doing while you're playing. So this really allows us to see what golfers are doing really in a more natural state, right? We don't want them to have to change with cumbersome, things that are kind of blocking what they normally do. So when I see golfers, typically the first thing I have them do is I have them, if they're wanting to work on their putting or whatever area of their game they're trying to work on, let's say it is putting, I'll have them hit putts first. And I'll just watch them outside hitting putts to be able to, let them warm up, kind of see some information about their process and, kind of about their speed control and what they're doing when they're hitting putts. And I also collect multiple perceptual metrics that gives me a baseline of where they're at before I give them too much information. I don't want to skew the results up front. So once they kind of hit a few and get warmed up and I've collected a few of those metrics, then that's when I'll put the eye tracker on them and let them hit some more putts with the eye tracker on. And it's in that space where the eye tracking technology captures not only a scene video, which is similar to you kind of setting up your phone and filming your golf swing, but it actually, the newest technology I have utilizes 4 eye cameras. So there's 2 cameras for each eye, and it's tracking both eyes at 50 frames per second. So if you could imagine, every 2/100th of a second, I have a picture of what both eyes are doing. So I can absolutely tell you I am not missing a single thing that happens with your eyes when you're playing. So this not only shows us where golfers are looking, but it provides us way more information than that. It provides us information on the eye movement patterns and many other perceptual metrics that help me determine, the best way in how I can train someone to help not only improve their minds, because as we know, the eye movements and the skills of the eyes are impacting the mind, but this is how it translates to getting the consistency in your technical skills to improve your play on course. So it's really a helpful tool for me to see it because I know of all this information over the years to be able to kind of leverage what I'm seeing. And man, the newest technology and the software, it's showing me things I've never seen before. I just got off the phone with a tour player that had called me up that wants to get on the eye tracker. I literally was just on the phone at 3:00 before we started this. And he said to me, "So what's the big difference from the system I used with you 10 years ago?" I said, literally, it'd be like you going to the medical doctor and they only have x-ray. So maybe they look at your knee and say, well, I can see the bones and the bones all look good. But to be able to have like an fMRI, to be able to see all the tendons and the muscle and that level of detail, then gives a medical doctor more information, right? And that's literally kind of what has happened with the technology now for me to be able to see more things. And it's answering questions that I thought I knew an answer to, but now that I'm seeing this, it's opening up a whole new area of my training that's getting pretty exciting for me.
That's amazing. Boy, gosh, what is it going to be like in 5 years or so as they keep improving these kind of things too? Yeah, you're going to have a lot of fun.
Oh, absolutely. And even when I know some friends of yours that are swing coaches that are up in your neck of the woods, they were saying, when they got launch monitor technology, right, some of the stuff out there that they're able to do and see with those, again, it's the same sort of thing. Having that information can go a long way to helping get golfers better and better faster. They're not wasting those deliberate practice hours doing something that won't help them.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get real practical for a minute about a topic that a lot of people talk a lot about, lines on the golf ball, lines on putters, having multiple lines, having multiple ways of confusion is the way I view it sometimes. But anyhow, share a little bit about, a golfer walks into somewhere to get fit for a putter, for example, or when I'm doing a putting lesson, almost one of the very first things I'm asking, do you use a line in the ball? How do you use it? For example, even, what's your eye dominance, right? And I don't know how that factors into, but, makes sense to me, do different things with eye dominance if you're going to use a line in the ball. But so, that's kind of a wide open area to talk about, but some of the things that you see with golfers and lines and maybe a little advice. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess I'm going to preface this up front. I'm not saying that the alignment aids on golf balls or on putters are a bad thing. I'm going to preface that ahead of time.
Yeah.
I just think we need to learn how to leverage them better. And like you said, the whole golf ball industry has made a huge shift, maybe in the last decade or so, to alignment aids on balls. I mean, to the point where you can go and even order on websites for these manufacturers the specific alignment aid you want stamped on your ball. You don't even have to use a marker anymore. You can just order the golf balls exactly the way you want, and they'll come with those pre-stamped alignment aids. So there are so many different versions of alignment aids on golf balls. As you know, many of the putters that are being brought out, so much information to try to help people aim better. So is it one line? Is it two lines? Is it three lines? Is it two balls that simulate the ball to give you an idea of where that putter is aimed? And of course, aiming certainly is important. And any way that the manufacturers can try to help people play better through aiming better, especially with the putters and the golf balls, that's obviously an important area, and they're trying to help. I even recently saw on social media a company that was selling a ball marker, and the ball marker had a very complex design on the ball marker. And that design was a design that you could transfer and mark onto your ball. And when you marked your ball when you got on the green and picked up your golf ball, the ball marker, that little design with the alignments actually had the ability to shift on top of the ball marker left and right. So you could actually use it to kind of aim where you wanted your line to be. And then you'd put your ball down and match the lines that were on your ball to the lines that were on the ball marker to get everything lined up. And then you picked up the ball marker, you put it in your pocket, and you knew that it was all aligned correctly. And, again, when I see all of this, the thing that I think of is the amount of information overload it gives to our visual system. So one of the eye skills that we talk about when I train people is a saccade. And if you don't know what a saccade is when your eye is jumping to different targets. It's a pretty important skill. You certainly need it in everything in life. When you're driving your car, definitely important to be able to look and pick up on things in your mirror, to be able to change lanes, how fast you're driving, look at your cell phone to text. No, don't do that, please. Don't text and drive. Okay, but the saccade movements, what people need to understand is every time your eye jumps to look at a different target, it sends information to the brain for the brain to process. So the more saccades, the more analytical thoughts. So you can understand that with all of these alignments on the ball and the putter, if you are constantly jumping around, scanning all of those lines, you are sending a ton of information to your brain, which just ramps up cognitive processing, puts your brain in overload, and it makes it harder for the picture you're seeing in your brain, whether it's the putt you're trying to hit or the shot you're trying to hit. It's harder for you to see that and let your body just do what it knows how to do. It actually almost overloads the muscles, where then your muscles won't fire consistently the way they did in practice, the way you've been doing maybe on the range or on the practice putting green. So can you use the alignment aids on balls? Can you benefit from them? You can, but you have to avoid these pitfalls of becoming overly consumed with all the lines. You've got to be very careful of a lot of saccades, which will just ramp up a lot of cognitive processing. And, really, in my opinion, what I want more golfers to start remembering is, while aim is important, the most important thing in putting is speed. Speed is king. Speed dictates the line. I've not heard any great golf instructor or golfing putting guru not say that speed is not the most important thing. And what happens is, often when I see players, I see them so overconsumed with the line on their ball and maybe the lines on their putter and where they're aiming, that when they eventually get up to hit their putt, they've spent no time focused on speed or thinking about speed, or how do they reproduce consistent speed. I will give you a little hint. Your eyes actually can help you get consistent speed. Your eyes will dictate dictate that speed. So there's another reason why you need to train them correctly. But if you're not focused in on that speed, then this is where I see people with their speed control off. And so when golfers come to me, tour players that say, I've got my caddy who's using Aim Point to get the perfect line. I'm using maybe Aim Point Express. We both agree that that is the perfect line. Well, you've got two people that now have looked at that and both agreed that this is the most perfect line. Well, it's the perfect line based on a speed. There's not one line for the ball to go in. There's a window. So depending on the speed control, if it's a Ben Crenshaw dying speed, where I love Ben Crenshaw used to say, my best putt is when that ball dies drunk in the hole. So that's going to be a different speed than maybe Tiger, who's maybe going to be hitting it a little firmer, a little more aggressive speed. And so finding that window and making sure that if you're using the lines to get aligned when you set up, there has to be some point in time, and my recommendation would be, especially by the last look you take, either to the hole or your target, and especially during execution, this is where it has to be no longer about all of those lines and aim and eye movements. It has to become a lot more about speed and utilizing the skills that help you to reproduce good speed control.
It is so amazing that there can be so many ways for a ball to get in the hole, particularly, when you get up to, breaks that are 2 degrees and things like that. It is phenomenal to understand that part. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, when we first talked, when I first got the chance to say, hey, Ryan, can we do this? You were just at the start of, and I think you were probably a week or two from putting your new impact putting program online. And you talked about what the role of COVID was in bringing that about, which is kind of neat. COVID's not neat, of course, but that you were able to create something because you had a little bit more downtime. So talk about the program that you now have on your website, and I think you've got some other ones coming. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. We were kind of in the same process. You were also in the same place of releasing such an excellent resource of all the things you'd kind of gathered over the years. And
thanks
I know
for that.
You were working on that as well. And we were kind of in the same phase of that process. The pandemic, of course, has been hard on all of us. There's been things we've had to adjust to. Since March of 2020, I had been doing work from home, and when I gained back a lot of the time that I didn't have to drive, because part of the work that I've done over the last 20 years, for the last decade, I've been working with our Special Operations Command. So all of our soft forces, Navy SEALs, the Green Beret, I've been working in that community now for some time, but my drive can take up anywhere from 2 to 3 hours of my day. So when I got those 3 hours back, I started thinking, you know what, this is the time I should be taking advantage of this. And, over the 20 years, from the research that I've done, the knowledge that I've gained through the eye tracking data and working with just the best players on major tours throughout the world, I just started looking at the wealth of this information. And I just felt like this needs to be in a place where people can get access to it, where they don't have to see me. It doesn't have to be expensive, that they can find it and get access to it and start learning what would be the core perceptual skills that they need to start working for their game to get better. And so, I started bringing all that information together. I combed through thousands of hours of eye tracking videos to pick up videos that people can watch and see what some amateurs are doing with their eyes, what things that are being done that are wrong, what things that are being done that are correct, and be able to learn from that and really develop a process that takes someone through step by step all of those key skills that need to be trained. That's an easy way to learn, and how they can actually apply it to their game. Because I can't tell you and express this any more than, like anything else in golf, it's very personal and individualized. Maybe no two golf swings are the same. No two set of eyes are the same, right? Our perceptual skills are very different. So how I see it when I'm hitting a putt or hitting a golf shot is going to be very different than how it is for you. And so to be able to kind of build something where people can go through the process and learn what is a way to take the information and apply it to my game and how I actually see it. It was a fun process to go through. And one of the things that I was worried about was, well, it all makes sense to me and I can get tons of videos and put them all together, but are people that are going to use this able to translate it without me being there? And so I did send this training to many of the golfers I had worked with over the years, some who were amateur golfers who went from like a 30 handicap to a 9 handicap, and they just love playing golf every weekend, and they're just kind of addicted to golf, to tour players who I've worked with. And I said, hey, take a look at this training that I've put together online. You tell me, do you think this translates without me being there? Because that would be my biggest concern, right? I'm always trying to help people get better. That's my passion. I want everybody's level of expertise to get to the next level. And if that's you being able to break 100 or break 70 or win the Masters, whatever it is, I'm excited to be able to do that and help to get you there, So I was worried. I'll tell you, Tony, I was worried when I got the feedback. I said, be as brutal as you want. I don't care. You won't hurt my feelings. And interestingly enough, everybody came back and said, I can't believe it. We didn't know how you do it without you being there, because we know what it was like going through the process and getting on an eye tracker. And of course, while being on an eye tracker is the most accurate way to do it, I've provided some tools that you can do without me that'll get you, partly the way there. And be able to do and learn those skills without me. And they all said, yeah, actually, you don't need to be there. This works. I think this is going to actually work. So now
it's not going to eliminate you, though, I'm sure. But yeah, right.
I'm not needed anymore.
Yeah,
so
right.
I will tell you, though, part of my job, I always feel like if I'm doing a good job, I should have worked myself out of a job, because I don't believe that I should be a crutch for someone. I'm not the one hitting that tee shot. I'm not the one making those putts. If I haven't instilled the skills that are right for you and empowered you to be able to use them correctly, and when they're not correct, know yourself well enough to be able to tweak them from missing a putt on 17. I have a collegiate golfer who told me he missed a putt on 17, had a downhill 30-footer breaking left to right that he had to make to get into a playoff for the Jones Cup. And he said, I knew exactly walking up to the green what I did wrong with my eyes on 17. I made the adjustment and rolled it dead in the heart on 18 to get in the playoff. That excites me, because I don't need to be there for every putt, every tee shot, and I'm not the one hitting them. So I guess it's a good thing if I can get people to learn these skills and they don't need me anymore. Because if I can work myself out of a job, then I guess I'm doing the right thing. So, but the first program has been the putting program. That's released now and available online to be able to get to and start working. And people have the opportunity to reach out to me to have one-on-one time within that program to dial things in, so they're not kind of feel like they're left out there on their own. I am doing the work now to create the full swing program, because while the science is the same, how you need to train your eyes correctly for a tee shot or an approach shot is going to be different than a putt versus maybe a chip or a bunker shot. And so once I get the full swing done, we'll get that on there for people, and then we'll work on the short game area as well to get that training. So I'm trying to get through all that as quickly as I can, although with the new eye tracking videos I'm getting on putting, I'm learning so many new things with the putting that it gets me so excited. Then I've started to add those new skills and new videos to the putting program. So people who have already bought the putting program, they're getting access to new information that I'm adding, no additional charge, of course. As the program evolves, I'm going to keep adding information for them to keep learning. And so I keep getting in this stuck place where I want to add the new things that are so exciting, but I need to keep working on getting the other stuff. So I'm working as quickly as I can to get the other areas, but it's a fun process, and I've enjoyed it over this last year with the pandemic. So
it's great that you've been able to do that. Well, thank you for doing this today. It's been really fun to get to talk with you. Maybe we end up, I was going to say, this was the sneaky one. I've got a grandson who loves Ninja Warrior stuff. I'm sure what he does, and I don't know if you work with anybody that does some of that stuff, but you might, So, get some advice for him, but we won't go there today. He loves this stuff. Oh my God.
Yeah, my kids love it too, actually.
Oh my God, it's a ball. But talk a little bit, maybe one or two pieces or a little bit of success stories of some of the people you've gotten to work with and some of the most fun ones. Now, obviously, that one with the guy, knowing what he did wrong and making a 30-footer, that's pretty amazing. But maybe at least one more.
Yeah, I mean, some of the success that I've seen, even for me, I'm shocked by it, how quickly the results can come. And I can share stories where sometimes people look at me and they just don't believe that it's true. The most recent one that's been pretty shocking for most people, I've had the great opportunity to start working with Christina Kim on the LPGA Tour.
I was hoping that was the one you were going to talk about.
Yeah, and she's been so generous to help to post some things online. And one of the reasons why I can actually even share her name, because typically, I don't discuss specifically the clients that I work with, but she's been generous to kind of share the information. But, it was interesting when I first put her on the eye tracker and saw the differences on what she was doing. I had not yet quite received the computer I needed to run the software. So again, I only had a picture of what I was seeing from my old eye tracker. Then when the company got me the new software, it opened up something that, again, changed everything in the way I train. I got her to hit a couple more putts before we were going to do an 18-hole playing lesson. And I showed her the videos with the new software. Literally, with the information I got, I told her what she needed to change. She had no time to go to the green to practice this new perceptual skill. She actually ran to the driving range to hit just a dozen balls just to quickly warm up. We went right to the first tee, and right out the gate, first 9 holes, she birdies the first 4 holes out the gate. She has 12 putts on the front 9. She made nearly 50 feet in 1 putt. And we're talking some really fast undulating greens. And this is with her getting no time on the practice screen to put it in any practice. Now, some would argue, well, she's a tour player. She has a really good putting stroke. And yes, when the technique is really good and you get your eyes doing the right thing, yes, that technique can just repeat itself. And when it's good technique, you're going to get great results. But this is what I've loved about the training, because the benefits can come so quickly because your body is just following signals, right? If I asked everybody to get out of their house and run 3 laps around their house, when you come back in the house, there's no way you can keep your heart rate at the same rate it was before you went outside. Your body is following the signals. Your heart will just start beating faster to get oxygen and blood to the muscles. It has to do it. It has no choice, right? So when the eyes are doing the wrong things, the brain has to follow those signals. Well, once we get your eyes doing the right things, your brain also has no choice but to follow those new signals. And when your brain is following those new signals, it frees you up, and then the body is freed up to perform better. And so I've often seen clients have success that comes very, very quickly. So I've been very excited for her for that. But I think the one thing I'd love to share with everyone, instead of just reeling off golfers, I've had a couple of juniors that I've only had a couple of lessons with, and they already had a T2 finish for a second place and then a top 10 finish on some really tough courses that they had not played before because they're not from this area of Orlando. But one of the things that I noticed just the last time I was out that I want to share with people that I think can really get them to start getting better or training more deliberately was I saw a really good golfer out on the putting green practicing his putting. And he was practicing with some other fellow golfers that he was friends with. He was using a putting training aid that looked similar to like Pell's putting tutor. So it's basically that triangle where you put your ball on one end, and you can use those, the metal, like steel marbles to kind of put them in different slots that maybe makes it a slightly more difficult opening to be more accurate with your stroke. Well, I watched him as he spent an hour hitting putts where every putt nicked the left steel marble. And his friends were watching him and trying to help him. And he just kept saying over and over and over again, I just keep pulling every single putt and hitting that left marble. Well, what I could clearly see was that he was dead aimed at that left marble. He was not hitting a pull. Yeah. He was aimed right at it, and he was hitting a putt straight at it. And because he wasn't a brand new golfer and just started playing golf maybe this month, he was good enough to know that he couldn't hit a full block to get it through the marbles, just to get it through the marbles. Because when you're that good, to feel a block doesn't feel like a very good putting stroke.
Yeah.
And so he's trying to make what's a good putting stroke. And I would say he had an actually very good putting stroke. But because of his perception and his setup, I could see where his eyes were and how it was affecting his setup. And that had him always set up dead aimed at that left marble. And this is where I feel so bad for golfers, because it's already a tough game, right? We all know how difficult the game of golf is. But when you're putting in practice that doesn't help you get better, I mean, that golfer after that hour or 2 hours not only is not putting better, but then when he goes to play, it's affecting his confidence, is affecting everything that he does on the green from that point in time. And you need to understand how your eyes impact this whole process. Because if you understand that and you can eliminate that factor, Bryson DeChambeau is constantly talking about, how do I eliminate factors? If I can eliminate variables, it's just going to lead to better scores. If you can eliminate the variable of your eyes causing problems, and you know that that's correct, then you'll truly know if it's a pull. But the problem is, many of us are spending so much time trying to fix our game by fixing the technique, but you're never going to fix it there if the fault is with your eyes, right? So you can't put a Band-Aid on your knee if you've skinned your elbow and your elbow's bleeding. It's not going to help analogy, you, right? Yeah, right? So the bottom line is, I think the more we can get people to start training all these 5 areas, because like I said, they're really all really important, and they all balance out each other to get you playing your best. Get with the people who are truly the experts that can get you to the next level, because it's that deliberate practice and knowing when to kind of put your foot on the gas and take that player to the next level and challenge them where it's difficult. It's not easy. You're not just doing the things that are easy in your practice, but it's designed in a way that deliberately those experts, whether it's from your physical skills to your technical skills, to emotional skills, tactical skills, or your perceptual skills, those experts truly know how to keep getting you to the next level. And that's truly how you're going to start playing some of your best golf. So I'm excited for this year. Hopefully we'll get people with their eyes playing better golf and raising that level of expertise.
And by the way, I know this, we may get to see each other. See, that's a good choice of words. You may be here in Knoxville sometime in the future. Isn't that right?
Yes, I've actually been speaking with a few people,
Bo.
And actually talking with Bo. He's been great, and really right now things are looking better with the pandemic. And I think in the near future I am planning a trip to get up there, so I really do hope I can see you, because I do love working with other experts, right? I absolutely know that if it took me this long to be an expert just in my small area, like nobody should ask me about a putter fitting or a swing technique. I'm not the guy to talk to, right? So I love to be able to get with you, who really has spent all the years knowing how to fit putters correctly, and kind of combining, the technical side with Bo. And when we start utilizing all those different technologies and eye tracking and all of our expertise, it just ends up being better for those golfers to play better golf. So hopefully we'll get in touch and be able to see each other. No pun intended.
That's right.
In the near future.
Right. That's great.
I get one, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, I will put it, I'm going to put a link to your site in the show notes, and in particular to the Impact program. And again, it's been it's taken a little time for us to get this one worked out, but it's been a delight for you to share a lot of things with people today. So thank you, Ryan.
Tony, thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. Can't wait to see you in the future.
The Golf Improvement Podcast is sponsored by Tony Wright and Game Improvement Golf. Tony creates exceptional golf clubs. You shoot lower scores.
Ryan, thanks for touching on so many of the things you do to help golfers play their best, and sharing information about your new Impact Putting Improvement Program. I actually put 2 direct links to Ryan's website in the show notes. First, to his homepage, where if you click on Store, you can learn more about his new Impact Putting Improvement online program. And also to his website video link, where he's shared some useful golf improvement videos worth watching. As we mentioned in the interview, I'm hoping to get to meet Ryan face-to-face sometime in the future, sometime this year, in Knoxville, when he visits the Bo Harris Golf Academy. Bo and I are assistant coaches for the Roane State Community College golf team. My shout out today is a little different, but a lot of fun. It's to Fred Green, creator of the Golf Smarter podcast. Fred and I share a long-time mutual admiration for a pioneer in the mental game improvement side of golf, Kerry Mumford, creator of the Clear Key process for playing on automatic. And when I reached out to Fred about interviews he did in the past with Kerry, he said, how about doing an interview with me? So in March 18, I'll be doing an interview with Fred, talking some about our remembrances of Kerry, who passed away a few years ago, and also other things in the golf improvement world. Thanks, Fred, for asking me on your show. Well, that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed the last few interviews that I've been fortunate to be able to do with some really smart people. And I'm working on setting up a new one in about 2 weeks. Take care and stay safe.
Game Improvement Golf, your source of information and inspiration to become an exceptional golfer now. www.gameimprovementgolf.com